The yellow cab screeched to a halt. I popped the trunk, the sound of the bustling city immediately filling my ears. The cacophony of honking horns, distant chatter, and the occasional street performer created a symphony unique to New York, and wrestled my beat-up suitcase onto the sidewalk. The weight of it felt like the weight of my dreams, heavy but full of promise. I took a moment to steady myself, feeling the pulse of the city beneath my feet. Greenwich Village, my home base for this solo raid on the Big Apple. The charm of the narrow streets and historic brownstones was a stark contrast to the towering skyscrapers of Midtown. It felt like stepping into a different world, one where every corner held a story waiting to be discovered. The air crackled with a nervous energy. Not the city's, mine. This was my first time navigating the urban maze alone, and the excitement was palpable. Every face I passed seemed to have a purpose, a destination, a story. This concrete jungle hummed with a life force I'd only ever tasted through books and movies. The reality was far more intoxicating. The sheer diversity of people, the blend of cultures, and the relentless pace made it clear why this city was a magnet for dreamers. Today, I take a bite out of the Big Apple, a taste of its essence. I was ready to immerse myself in everything it had to offer, starting with its legendary breakfast scene. First things first, coffee. Black as sin, strong as hell. The kind of coffee that jolts you awake and makes you feel alive. I found a quaint cafe, its aroma wafting out onto the street, inviting me in. Then, a proper New York breakfast. Eggs, bacon, and toast, served with a side of the city's vibrant energy. The diner was a microcosm of New York itself, filled with a mix of locals and tourists, each absorbed in their own world. I'd heard tales of these mythical bagels, chewy, doughy, and nothing like the sad, mass-produced imitations back home. I ventured into a bakery renowned for its bagels, the smell of freshly baked bread enveloping me as I walked in. This culinary quest was more important than any museum. It was about experiencing the city through its flavors, understanding its culture through its cuisine. Each bite was a revelation, a connection to the heart of New York. It was about understanding the soul of a city, one bite at a time. From the first sip of coffee to the last bite of a bagel, I was beginning to see why New York was a city like no other. It wasn't just about the sights, it was about the experiences, the moments that made you feel truly alive. The bagel shop was crammed. Locals traded gossip over steaming cups of joe. A man in a stained apron barked orders. I pointed at a sesame seed-encrusted behemoth and mumbled something about cream cheese. Minutes later, I was outside, navigating a minefield of pedestrians, my prize in hand. Washington Square Park was my next stop. It was a haven for dreamers and artists. Students strummed guitars. A mime, thankfully silent, contorted his body into impossible shapes. I watched it all unfold, bagel in hand, crumbs tumbling down my shirt. The city was a chaotic symphony, and I was just another instrument in its orchestra. I ditched the map. Today was about getting lost, about surrendering to the whims of the city. I wandered aimlessly, my senses on high alert. The smell of roasted peanuts, the screech of the subway, the cacophony of a dozen different languages swirling around me. This was sensory overload in its purest form. My feet led me to the High Line. This elevated park, built on old railway tracks, offered a unique perspective of the city. It was a ribbon of green cutting through a jungle of glass and steel. I strolled along, mesmerized by the urban tapestry unfolding below. Public art installations dotted the path, unexpected bursts of color and creativity in the urban landscape. The Empire State Building. No trip to New York is complete without paying homage to this Art Deco deity. I joined the throngs of tourists, herded like cattle towards the summit. The elevator shot upwards, my ears popping in protest. Then the doors opened, and I gasped. The city sprawled beneath me, a breathtaking panorama of concrete and sky. Buildings stretched as far as the eye could see, miniature monuments to human ambition. I felt strangely insignificant, yet strangely connected to the pulse of this metropolis. This was the beating heart of the world, and I was just a tiny cell in its vast circulatory system. Section 5, A Sanctuary of Silence, Finding Peace in the Pages. After the sensory overload of the Empire State Building, I craved a sanctuary. The New York Public Library, with its majestic lion guardians and hushed halls, offered the perfect respite. I wandered through the echoing rooms, my fingers trailing along the spines of countless volumes. The air smelled of old paper and forgotten stories. This was a temple of knowledge, a testament to the enduring power of the written word. I found a quiet corner and sank into a plush armchair, letting the silence wash over me. It was a strange juxtaposition, this haven of peace amidst the urban chaos. Section 6. The city's beating heart. Times Square after dark. As dusk settled, I found myself in Times Square. The sky was a deepening shade of blue and the first stars were beginning to twinkle. The air was electric with anticipation, as if the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for the night to truly begin. If the city had a pulse, this was it. The streets were alive with a rhythm all their own, a symphony of footsteps, laughter, and the distant hum of traffic. It was a place where time seemed to stand still, yet move at a breakneck pace all at once. Giant LED screens flashed, illuminating the crowds with a kaleidoscope of colors. Each advertisement was a story, a glimpse into the dreams and desires of a city that never sleeps. The lights were so bright, they seemed to turn night into day, casting long shadows that danced on the pavement. Music blared from every storefront, each genre blending into a chaotic yet harmonious soundtrack for the night. Street musicians added their own flair, their melodies weaving through the air and adding to the rich tapestry of sounds that defined Times Square. The sheer energy of the place was intoxicating, a sensory assault that left me both exhilarated and exhausted. It was as if the very essence of New York City was distilled into this one vibrant, chaotic, and beautiful place. Every corner held a new surprise, every face a new story. Dinner was a greasy slice of New York pizza, devoured standing on a street corner. The cheese stretched with each bite, and the crust was perfectly crisp. It was a simple meal, but in that moment, it felt like a feast fit for a king. It wasn't fancy, but it hit the spot. The flavors were bold and unapologetic, much like the city itself. Each bite was a reminder of why New York was a culinary capital, where even the street food was a cut above the rest. This was the taste of the city, the fuel that kept its engine running. Street vendors were the unsung heroes, feeding the masses with their quick, delicious offerings. It was a culinary experience that was as much about the atmosphere as it was about the food. As I licked the cheese from my fingers, I watched the human currents ebb and flow around me, each person a story waiting to be told. The diversity was staggering, a true melting pot of cultures and backgrounds, all converging in this one iconic location. It was a reminder that Times Square was more than just a place. It was an experience, a living, breathing entity that captured the essence of New York City. Section 7. Across the East River, a walk to remember. My feet, aching but exhilarated, carried me towards the Brooklyn Bridge. The night air was crisp, with the faintest hint of salt from the East River. The city skyline, a shimmering tapestry of light, beckoned me forward. As I crossed the bridge, I encountered a lone street artist. He was hunched over his easel, his face illuminated by a single lamp. His canvas captured the city's essence, the energy, the chaos, the beauty. It was a moment of unexpected connection, a reminder that even in a city of millions, there's always room for art and individual expression. Section 8. Midnight blue reflections on a canvas of concrete and stars. Back in my tiny Greenwich Village hotel room, the city's symphony drifted in through the window. The hum of distant traffic, the occasional honk of a horn, and the murmur of voices from the street below created a unique melody that was both chaotic and comforting. It was a lullaby of urban life, a reminder that the city never truly sleeps. Exhaustion tugged at me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd only just scratched the surface of this place. The city was a living, breathing entity, full of stories waiting to be discovered. Each street, each building, each person I encountered added a new layer to the complex tapestry that was New York. New York was a city that demanded to be experienced, not conquered. It was a place where every corner held a surprise, where the mundane could become extraordinary in the blink of an eye. The energy of the city was infectious, pulling you into its rhythm and making you feel alive in a way that few other places could. My solo adventure had been a baptism by fire, navigating the crowded streets, finding my way through the labyrinthine subway system, and braving the constant hustle and bustle had been both exhilarating and exhausting. But it was in these moments of challenge that I found my strength and resilience. I'd navigated the subway, haggled with street vendors, and eaten my weight in pizza. Each experience was a small victory, a step towards understanding the heartbeat of the city. The subway, with its endless maze of lines and stations, was a microcosm of the city itself. Complex, chaotic, but ultimately navigable with a bit of patience and perseverance. Most importantly, I'd learned to be comfortable in my own company. In a city teeming with millions of people, I found solace in moments of solitude. Sitting alone in a park or a cafe, I had the time to reflect, to observe, and to simply be. These quiet moments were a counterbalance to the city's frenetic pace, a reminder that it was okay to slow down and take it all in, to embrace the freedom and the terror of exploring a new place without a safety net. There was a certain thrill in stepping out of my comfort zone, in facing the unknown head-on. Each landmark I visited, each new neighborhood I explored, was a testament to my growing confidence and independence. The city had tested me, challenged me, and ultimately, changed me. It had pushed me to my limits and shown me what I was capable of. In the process, I discovered a new side of myself, one that was braver, more resilient, and more open to the world around me. And I wouldn't have had it any other way. The experiences, the challenges, the moments of joy and frustration, they all came together to create a journey that was uniquely mine. As I looked out at the city one last time, I knew that New York had left an indelible mark on me, one that I would carry with me long after I left its bustling streets behind.